The ground shook beneath Hyun's feet as he walked toward his barn. At first he thought it was another small earthquake. The colony of Talon 9 had them sometimes, but then he heard the crash. Something big had fallen near his farm. Hyun ran toward the sound. Smoke rose from behind the old storage shed. His heart pounded. What if it was a ship? What if someone needed help? When he rounded the corner, Hyun stopped dead in his tracks. The creature lying in the dirt was like nothing he had ever seen. It was huge, maybe 3 times the size of an earth bear. Its body was covered in dark scales that shimmered purple and black. 6 legs sprawled around it, each ending in claws as long as Hyun's hand. Blood seeped from a wound in its side. Hyun knew what this was. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Kratari. They were hunters, killers, warbeasts that entire armies feared, and one was dying on his farm. He should run. He should call security. But the creature's eye opened and looked at him. It was golden like a sunset, and it held something Hyun recognized. Pain. Fear. Then something impossible happened. A voice spoke inside his head. Please. Hyun stumbled backward. The creature hadn't moved its mouth. The voice was in his mind, rough and desperate. You, human, please my children. Your children? Hyun whispered. The creature tried to lift its massive head. 3 cubs hidden. I must go. Get medicine, my world. But cubs. Too small, too weak. Journey will kill them. Hyun's hands shook. You want me to? Watch your cubs? Yes. The voice in his head grew weaker. I watch through MindLink. I see what you do. Please, no one else will help. Where are they? The creature's tail moved, pointing to a small cave in the rocks nearby. Hyun walked slowly toward it. Inside, he heard small chirping sounds. When his eyes adjusted to the darkness, he saw them. 3 small versions of the massive creature. They were each about the size of a large dog, with softer scales and big, frightened eyes. They saw him and pressed against the back of the cave, making scared noises. They're terrified, Hyun said. Of course. You are a stranger. But you are gentle species. I research before I come. Humans raise many young, many species. You have kindness. My people have only strength. Hyun looked back at the wounded creature. If I do this, they'll want to take them away. The colony leaders. They'll say it's too dangerous. I know. But you will try. I see it in your mind. You are one who helps. Before Hyun could respond, he heard voices. His sister Rika was calling his name. She worked at the research center and must have detected the crash. I have to go now, the creature said. Ship is auto-return. Takes me home. Cubs are yours. I am Vexmora. I will remember this. The creature struggled to its feet. It was even bigger standing up. With a last look at the cave, it limped toward a small ship Hyun hadn't noticed before. The ship's door opened automatically. Wait, Hyun called. What do they eat? How do I? But Vexmora was already inside. The ship lifted off, wobbling slightly, then shot into the sky. Rika ran up beside him, breathing hard. Hyun, I saw the readings. Was that a Kratari warbeast? Are you insane? Those things are. A small chirp came from the cave. Rika's eyes went wide. No, tell me those aren't cubs, Hyun said quietly. 3 of them. Hyun, we have to report this immediately. Those creatures are dangerous. Even the young ones can. She asked me to protect them, Hyun interrupted. Their mother is wounded. She's going home for medicine. The cubs can't survive the trip. Rika stared at him like he'd lost his mind. She had talked to you? In my head. Telepathy, I think. And you believed it? Hyun. For all you know, these are abandoned cubs. Or worse, they're bait for a trap. We need to call Commander Daeho right now. But Hyun was already walking toward the cave. The cubs had ventured closer to the entrance, their curiosity overcoming their fear. The smallest one, with lighter scales than the others, tilted its head as it watched him. Look at them, Hyun said softly. They're scared. They're babies. They're predators. So are cats. So are dogs. We domesticated them. Over thousands of years. These are wild alien creatures whose species has killed thousands of... A sound made them both turn. 3 security vehicles were approaching fast. Dust clouds rising behind them. Someone had reported the crash. Commander Daeho stepped out of the first vehicle, his hand on his weapon. He was a big man with gray hair and hard eyes. Step away from that cave, Hyun. They're just cubs. I don't care if they're newborns. Those are Kratari warbeasts. I have orders to contain any alien threat to this colony. They're not a threat. Not yet. But in a few months, a year? Do you know what an adult Kratari can do? Daeho moved closer. I've seen the reports. One of those things destroyed an entire military outpost on Kepler 7. Killed 40 soldiers. These cubs will grow up to be just like their mother. Hyun stood his ground. Their mother asked me to protect them. She's coming back. That's what she told you. Through supposed telepathy that we can't verify. Rika stepped forward. Actually, Commander, Krithari telepathy is documented. It's rare but possible. And if what Hyun says is true, this could be an incredible opportunity. No one has ever studied Krithari cubs in a controlled environment. Daeho's eyes narrowed. You want to keep them? For research? For understanding, Rika said. Think about it. If we can learn about them, maybe we can find ways to coexist with their species, or at least understand them better. The commander looked between them, then at the cave. One of the cubs had crept to the entrance. It was watching the humans with those golden eyes, its small body trembling. You have 24 hours, Daeho finally said. Get them secured in a reinforced structure. I want monitors, cameras, and safety protocols. And if anything goes wrong, anything at all, I'm putting them down. Understood? Hyun nodded, relief flooding through him. As the security vehicles drove away, Rika put a hand on her brother's shoulder. You know this is crazy, right? Completely crazy, Hyun agreed. So what do we do now? Hyun looked at the 3 small creatures watching them from the cave. I guess we figure out how to take care of alien warbeasts. The smallest cub took a tiny step forward. Then another. It stopped just outside the cave, looking up at Hyun. Slowly, carefully, Hyun knelt down and extended his hand. The cub sniffed the air. Its siblings watched from the safety of the cave. Then with a small chirp, it touched its nose to Hyun's palm. I think we just started, Hyun whispered. Somewhere far above, racing through space, Vex Mora felt that touch through the mental link she shared with her young. She felt her smallest cub's fear begin to fade, replaced by something she didn't expect. Curiosity, hope. And in that moment, the warrior who had never trusted any species outside her own began to wonder if she had made the right choice after all. The first night was chaos. Hyun had moved the cubs into his barn, reinforcing it with metal panels that Rika brought from the research center. The cubs didn't like being moved. They hissed and backed away every time he came near. It took 3 hours just to get them inside. Now they huddled in the far corner, making sad chirping sounds. The smallest one kept looking at the door, clearly waiting for its mother. They haven't eaten anything, Rika said, checking her datapad. According to the records, young Krithari need protein, a lot of it. Hyun had tried raw meat, cooked meat, and even some protein bars. The cubs sniffed everything and turned away. They were hungry. He could tell by the way they looked at the food. But something was wrong. Maybe they only eat live prey, Rika suggested. I'm not feeding them live animals, Hyun said firmly. Then they might starve. At that moment, Hyun's nephew Taeyang burst into the barn. The 12-year-old boy had begged to come see the cubs all evening. His mother had finally given in. Wow, Taeyang breathed, staring at the creatures. They're amazing. They're dangerous, Rika warned. Stay back. But Taeyang wasn't listening. He walked slowly toward the cubs, his movements calm and easy. The cubs watched him but didn't back away as they had with the adults. Hey there, Taeyang said softly. You're scared, huh? I get it. Everything's new and strange. The smallest cub tilted its head, studying the boy. Your mom will come back, Taeyang continued. My uncle Hyun will take care of you until then. He's good at taking care of things. To everyone's shock, the smallest cub took a step forward, then another. It walked right up to Taeyang and sniffed his hand. Can I touch it? Taeyang whispered. Very carefully, Hyun said, his heart in his throat. Taeyang reached out slowly and touched the cub's head. Its scales were warm and smooth. The cub made a rumbling sound, not threatening, almost like a purr. I think it likes me, Taeyang said, grinning. The other 2 cubs watched. The middle one, slightly bigger than the smallest, crept closer. Soon all 3 were investigating the boy, sniffing him and making curious sounds. Unbelievable, Rika muttered, recording everything on her pad. They're responding to him completely differently than to us. He's smaller, Hyun realized. Closer to their size, less threatening. Taeyang sat down cross-legged and the cubs gathered around him. "They need names," he announced. "I'm calling this one Ash." He pointed to the smallest, who had pale gray scales. "And this one is Ember." The middle cub had scales that looked almost red in the light. "And your Storm." The biggest cub had the darkest scales, almost black. "Those are actually good names," Rika admitted. "Can I try feeding them?" Taeyang asked. Hyun handed him a piece of raw meat. Taeyang held it out to Ash. The cub sniffed it, then looked up at the boy. Taeyang made exaggerated chewing motions with his mouth. Ash watched him, then carefully took the meat. The cub bit down, chewed, and swallowed. Within seconds, all three cubs were eating. They needed to see someone else eat first, Hyun said in wonder. They were waiting for their mother to show them it was safe. Over the next few days, patterns emerged. The cubs were smart, much smarter than anyone had expected. They learned quickly that Hyun brought food and water. They figured out how to open the barn door and had to be taught boundaries. They played with each other, tumbling and chirping just like puppies. Rika spent every spare moment studying them. "This is incredible," she said one afternoon, showing Hyun her notes. "They're developing social behaviors that aren't documented in any Krithari research. Adult Krithari are solitary. But these cubs, they're pack animals. They sleep together, play together, even eat at the same time. Maybe adult Krithari are solitary because they're taught to be," Hyun suggested. That thought bothered him. What kind of childhood did Vexmora have? Did she ever play? Did anyone ever hold her when she was scared? Through the mental link, Vexmora watched everything. She saw her cubs eating from the human's hand. She saw them playing without the vicious competition she had experienced with her own siblings. She saw the boy Taeyang teaching Storm to chase a ball, laughing when the cub brought it back. This was wrong. This wasn't how Krithari young were raised. They were supposed to fight for food, compete for dominance, learn that only the strong survived. But her cubs were happy. She could feel it through the link. Ash felt safe. Ember felt curious. Storm felt playful. They felt loved. That was the word the human Hyun used when talking to his sister. "We have to make them feel loved," he had said. "They're away from their mother. They need to know someone cares." Love. Vexmora knew the word but had never felt it applied to her. Warriors didn't need love. They needed strength. Yet watching her smallest cub fall asleep against Hyun's leg, making content rumbling sounds, she wondered if strength was enough. On the 5th day, trouble arrived. A woman named Soman came to the farm. She was a veterinarian in the colony and had heard about the cubs. "The commander sent me," she explained. "He wants them checked for diseases. And honestly, I want to see them myself." The cubs had become more confident around Hyun and Taeyang, but they backed away when Somin entered. Ash hissed, showing small, sharp teeth. "They don't know you," Hyun explained. "Give them time." "We don't have time. I need blood samples, weight measurements, the works. Can you do it without scaring them?" Somin looked doubtful but agreed to try. She sat on the floor, far from the cubs, and placed her medical equipment nearby. "I'll wait for them to come to me." It took an hour. Taeyang helped by bringing the cubs closer, talking to them in his gentle voice. Finally, Ash approached Soman's equipment, sniffing curiously. "That's it," Soman whispered. "Just exploring." She moved slowly, letting Ash investigate her hand first. When the cub seemed comfortable, she carefully took a blood sample. Ash flinched but didn't pull away. The other cubs watched closely, learning from their siblings' bravery. "Amazing," Soman breathed when she finished. "Their trust in you and all of you is remarkable. I've worked with wild animals my whole career. These cubs should be feral, aggressive, but they're like domestic pets." "They're not pets," Hyun said firmly. "They're intelligent beings. We're just showing them that they're safe." Salmon packed up her equipment. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. These cubs are healthier than any wild animal I've seen. They're clean, well-fed, and clearly well-adjusted. But be careful. People are talking. What do you mean? Word spreading about the Krathari cubs. There are people, bad people, who would pay a fortune for creatures like this. You need to be careful. After Soman left, Hyun stood in the barn, watching the cubs play. Ember and Storm were tumbling over each other while Ash sat with Taeyang, letting the boy brush its scales with a soft brush. Rika joined him. I've been broadcasting my research findings, she said quietly. Nothing classified, just behavior observations. Hyun, scientists across 3 sectors are watching. No one has ever seen Krathari young behaving like this. Is that good or bad? Both. It proves that environment shapes behavior, even in species we thought were purely instinctual. But it also makes these cubs even more valuable. To scientists, to collectors, to anyone who wants to understand or exploit Krathari biology. That night, Hyun couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Vex Mora, about what she must have endured as a cub, about what life was like for a species that never knew gentleness. He went to the barn and found all 3 cubs awake. They looked at him with those golden eyes so much like their mother's. Your mom is coming back, Hyun told them, sitting down among them. And when she does, you're going to show her what you've learned. You're going to show her that there's another way to grow up, a way with kindness. Ash climbed into his lap, something the cub had started doing recently. Ember and Storm pressed against his sides. They rumbled contentedly, a sound that vibrated through his whole body. Far away, traveling through space, Vexamora felt her cub's contentment. She felt their trust in this human. She felt something she had never felt before. Gratitude. And the first stirring of a question that would change everything. What if the strong survived not despite gentleness but because of it? The attack came in the middle of the night. Hyun woke to the sound of the barn alarm blaring. He grabbed his coat and ran outside, his heart pounding. Floodlights illuminated the yard. The barn door had been forced open. The cubs! He shouted. Rika burst out of the house behind him, already on her communicator. I'm calling security. But when they reached the barn, they found something unexpected. The 3 cubs were standing in a defensive triangle, backs to each other, facing the open door. Their scales had darkened and low growls rumbled from their throats. In the doorway stood a man Hyun didn't recognize. He wore black tactical gear and held a stun weapon. Behind him, 2 more figures waited in the shadows. Step away from the animals, the man said. His accent was off-world. We're authorized to collect dangerous specimens. You're not authorized for anything, Hyun shot back. Get off my property, the man smiled coldly. The creatures are coming with us. You can cooperate or... Ash lunged. The movement was so fast Hyun barely saw it. The smallest cub went straight for the man's weapon, clamping down on the barrel with its jaws. The man yelled and tried to pull away, but Ash held on. Ash, no, Hyun shouted, but Storm and Ember were already moving. They didn't attack the intruders directly. Instead, Storm positioned itself between Hyun and the doorway while Ember did the same for Rika. They were protecting the humans. The man finally jerked his weapon free from Ash's jaws. He aimed it at the cub. Without thinking, Hyun threw himself forward, putting his body between the weapon and Ash. You'll have to go through me, Hyun said. Hyun, what are you doing? Rika hissed. What I should have done from the start. Protecting them. The standoff lasted only seconds. Security vehicles roared into the yard, sirens blaring. Commander Daeho himself stepped out, weapon drawn. Drop it, Daeho ordered. The man in black calculated his odds and lowered his weapon. We have contracts. Legal right to specimen collection in unclaimed territories. This is a registered colony. Nothing here is unclaimed, Daeho gestured to his officers. Get them out of here. As the intruders were led away, Daeho turned to Hyun. I warned you this would happen. These cubs are too valuable, too dangerous. They weren't the dangerous ones tonight, Hyun pointed out. Those men were. And the cubs attacked. To defend themselves. To defend us. Hyun looked at the 3 young creatures who had relaxed now that the threat was gone. Ash walked up to him and pressed against his leg, still trembling slightly. They didn't go wild. They didn't lose control. They protected their pack. Daeho's expression was unreadable. Their pack? That's what we are to them now. They've bonded with us. Rika has the research to prove it. The commander looked at Rika, who nodded. It's true, sir. Their behavior is unprecedented. They've formed attachment bonds with Hyun, with Taeyang, even with me. When threatened, they defaulted to pack protection instincts rather than pure aggression. Pack instincts, Daeho repeated slowly. Krethari don't have packs. These ones do, Hyun said. Over the next week, security around the farm was increased. Rika continued her research, now with help from Soman and several other scientists who had taken interest in the cubs. Taeyang visited every day after school, and the cubs would rush to greet him, nearly knocking him over in their excitement. The cubs were growing fast. They were already twice the size they had been when Vexmora left them. Their scales had hardened, their claws had sharpened, and their teeth were now capable of tearing through the tough meat Hyun provided. But they were gentle with Taeyang. They played rough with each other, but always softened their movements around the humans. When Ember accidentally scratched Hyun's arm during play, the cub immediately backed off, making distressed sounds until Hyun reassured it that he was okay. They understand consequences, Rika marveled, recording the interaction. They learn from mistakes. That's advanced cognitive function. The most surprising development came when Ash started making new sounds. The cub would watch Hyun talk and then try to mimic the mouth movements. At first it was just garbled noise. But one afternoon when Hyun said good, Ash repeated it back. Guh. Everyone froze. Did it just... Soman whispered. Hyun knelt down in front of Ash. Can you say it again, good? Guh. Ash repeated, more clearly this time. Taeyang laughed with delight. It's talking. Ash can talk! Krethari anatomy isn't designed for human speech, Rika said, stunned. This shouldn't be possible, but Ash kept trying. Over the following days, the cub learned yes and no and Hyun. The words were rough, almost growled, but unmistakable. Storm and Ember watched their sibling with interest but didn't try to imitate. The breakthrough came when visitors arrived from off-world. A ship landed at the colony's spaceport. From it emerged several Krethari, full-grown warriors, each one massive and terrifying. The colony went on high alert. Krethari didn't visit other species. They kept to their own worlds. The leader of the group identified himself as Vexkarn, brother of Vexmora. He was even bigger than Vexmora had been, with darker scales and scars across his snout. I come to see my sister's cubs, he announced to Commander Daeho, to judge if they are being raised properly. And if they're not? Daeho asked carefully. Then I take them. Raise them as Krethari should be raised. Hyun was summoned to meet with Vexkarn. Standing before the massive warrior, he felt like a child facing a mountain, but he held his ground. The cubs are healthy and happy, Hyun said. You can see for yourself. Happy? Vexkarn's voice was deep and rough. Cubs should not be happy. They should be strong, fierce, ready to fight. They are strong, but they're also kind. There's no reason they can't be both. The warrior studied him with golden eyes so similar to the cubs. My sister chose strange. Leaving cubs with prey species. I did not agree. But she felt something through the mind link. Something that made her trust you. What did she feel? Love. She said you love her cubs as if they were your own young. This is confusing. We Krethari do not love. We survive. Maybe that's why you're always alone, Hyun said quietly. Survival isn't the same as living. Vexkarn growled, and Hyun thought he'd gone too far. But then the warrior said, Show me these cubs. At the barn, the cubs sensed Vexkarn immediately. They backed away, uncertain. This was one of their own kind, but bigger, scarier than their mother. Vexkarn stepped forward, examining them with a critical eye. Small, he judged. Soft scales. They have not been training. They've been learning, Hyun corrected. Just not what you expect. Show me. Taeyang, who had been watching nervously, stepped forward with a ball. Storm, fetch! Storm looked at the boy, then at the massive warrior, then back at the boy. The cub made a decision. It chased the ball, brought it back, and dropped it at Taeyang's feet. Vexkarn stared. It obeys. By choice, Hyun said. Not fear. Watch. He called Ember over and showed Vexkarn how the cub would sit, stay, and even roll over on command. Then Ash walked up to the warrior, looked up at him, and spoke. Hyun. Good. Vexkarn stepped back as if struck. It speaks? Learning to, Rika said, appearing with her datapad. Along with problem-solving, cooperative play, empathy responses, and self-regulation. Your species has capabilities no one knew about because you've never been raised with gentleness. The warrior looked at the three cubs. now gathered around Taiyang seeking comfort from the familiar boy, rather than approaching their own kind. This is wrong. Cratheri do not need comfort, do not need gentleness. Then why did Vexmore leave them here? Hyun challenged. She could have found another Cratheri to take them. But she chose me, why? Vexkarn had no answer. That night the warrior stayed at the farm. He watched as Hyun fed the cubs, talking to them gently, praising them when they ate nicely. He watched Taeyang play with them until all four collapsed in a pile, exhausted. He watched Ash fall asleep against Hyun's side, making that rumbling purr sound. My sister was right to trust you, Vexkarn finally said. This is not our way. But perhaps our way has made us lonely. You're welcome to visit any time, Hun offered. The cubs should know their own kind, too. I will tell my sister what I have seen. She will want to know. The warrior looked at Hyun seriously. More will come. Not just my people. Others who want these cubs. You understand this? I do. Then prepare. Because what you have done here, raising warriors with love, this will change things, and not everyone wants things to change. After Vexkarn left, Hyun sat in the barn with the sleeping cubs. He thought about the warrior's warning. He thought about the men who had tried to steal the cubs. He thought about all the people who feared change. But then Ash snuggled closer, and Ember's tail wrapped around Storm, and he knew he'd made the right choice. Some things were worth fighting for. 3 weeks had passed since Vexmora left her cubs. They had grown remarkably. Each cub now stood as tall as Hyun's waist, their bodies strong and muscular. But their personalities had grown even more. Ash was the gentle one, always seeking comfort and giving it freely. The smallest cub had become the emotional heart of the group, often stepping between Storm and Ember when their play got too rough. Ember was curious about everything. The cub would investigate every corner of the farm, every new object, every visitor. Rika joked that Ember would make a great scientist. Storm was the protector. The biggest cub took its job seriously, always watching, always alert. When strangers approached, Storm would position itself in front of the others. But they all shared one thing, an absolute devotion to their human family. One morning, Hyun found Ember limping. The cub had caught its leg in some farm equipment during an unauthorized exploration. The wound wasn't deep, but it would need treatment. Come here, Ember, Hyun said gently. The cub approached but held back when Hyun reached for the injured leg. Pain made even gentle creatures defensive. I know it hurts, Hyun said softly, but I need to clean it. I promise I'll be careful. Ember looked at him with those golden eyes. Then slowly the cub lay down and extended the injured leg. The trust hit Hyun hard. This creature could kill him with one swipe of its claws, but it chose to be vulnerable because it trusted him. Soman arrived to help with the treatment. This needs stitches, she said, examining the wound. I'll have to use a local anesthetic, but it'll still be uncomfortable. Can you talk to them while I work? Soman asked Hyun. Keep them calm. Hyun sat by Ember's head, stroking the cub's scales while Soman worked. You're so brave, he told Ember. Remember when you first got here? You were scared of everything. Look at you now. You're letting us help because you know we care about you. Ember made small distressed sounds but didn't pull away. Ash and Storm pressed close, offering comfort to their sibling. When Soman finished, all 3 cubs gathered around her, sniffing the medical supplies with interest rather than fear. I've never seen anything like this, Soman said, packing up. A wild predator accepting medical treatment without sedation. The level of trust here is extraordinary. But the most remarkable moment came that afternoon. Taeyang had brought a small rabbit from the colony's farms. It was injured and needed care. The boy sat in the barn, gently feeding it medicine with a dropper. Storm approached, curious about the small creature. The rabbit froze in terror. It knew a predator when it saw one. Storm, gentle, Hyun warned. The big cub sniffed the rabbit carefully. Its instincts must have screamed to attack, to hunt. But Storm had learned a different way. The cub touched its nose to the rabbit softly, then backed away when the small animal flinched. Good, Taeyang praised. See? Small things need gentle. Over the next hour, Storm watched as Taeyang cared for the rabbit. The cub seemed to understand that not everything small was prey. Some things needed protection. By evening, Storm was lying down with the rabbit sleeping against its side, the small creature feeling safe with the predator. This shouldn't be possible, Rika whispered, recording it all. Krithari are apex predators. Their hunting instinct should override everything else. They're learning that there's more to life than hunting, Hyun said. They're learning empathy. The broadcasts of Rika's research had spread across multiple sectors now. Every day, messages arrived from xenobiologists, behavior specialists, and government officials. Some were supportive. Others demanded the cubs be removed to official research facilities. But the most surprising message came from an unexpected source. A Krithari named Nari had sent a recorded message. She appeared on the screen, smaller than Vexkarn but with similar features. Her voice was halting, as if speaking was difficult. I am Nari. I have... Young cub. He is wrong, too soft, too gentle. Elders say to abandon him. Let him die. But I saw your broadcast. I saw what you do with cubs. I want to bring my cub to you. Teach me how you make them strong without making them hard? Hyun played the message for Rika and Commander Daeho. She wants parenting advice, Rika said in disbelief. From humans? This could be a trick, Daeho warned. A way to get more Krithari cubs here for some purpose we don't understand. Or it could be a mother trying to save her child, Hyun countered. Just like Vexmora did. You can't save every Krithari cub in the galaxy. No. But I can help one mother learn there's another way. The debate continued for days. Meanwhile, the cubs continued to amaze everyone. Ash's vocabulary expanded to include want and play and love. The cub would press against Hyun and rumble love. Hyun, and Hyun's heart would break a little each time. Ember learned to be gentle with small things, practicing with the rabbit and other small animals Taeyang brought. The curious cub began helping Taeyang care for them, learning that protecting the weak was as important as being strong. Storm became Hyun's shadow, following him everywhere. When Hyun worked on farm equipment, Storm watched carefully as if trying to understand. When visitors came, Storm would assess them, deciding who was safe and who was a threat. They were becoming more than just cubs. They were becoming individuals with thoughts, feelings, and choices. One evening, Rika sat with Hyun watching the three cubs play in the yard. They were chasing each other, tumbling over each other, making happy sounds that echoed across the farm. I've been analyzing all the data, Rika said. Do you know what the biggest difference is between these cubs and wild Krithari young? What? Childhood? Wild Krithari cubs are forced into competition from birth. Fight for food. Fight for attention. Fight to survive. They never get to just be young, to play, to feel safe. She looked at her brother. You gave them a childhood. So did you. So did Taeyang. So did everyone who chose to see them as children instead of monsters. Vexmora will be back soon. What happens then? Hyun had been thinking about that. I don't know. Maybe she takes them home. Maybe they forget about us. They won't forget, Rika said firmly. Look at them, Hyun. You've changed who they are at their core. That doesn't just go away. That night, Hyun couldn't sleep. He went to the barn and found all three cubs awake as if they'd been waiting for him. Can't sleep either? He asked, sitting down among them. Ash crawled into his lap, though the cub was getting too big for it. Hyun said, No, just thinking. Your mom is coming back soon. I'm happy about that. You should be with her, but I'm going to miss you. All three cubs pressed against him, offering comfort the way he'd always comforted them. Love Hyun, Ash said clearly. I love you too, Hyun whispered. All of you. Whatever happens, remember that you're good. You're strong and gentle and brave. Don't let anyone tell you that's wrong, Storm rumbled softly. Ember's tail wrapped around Hyun's wrist. Ash's golden eyes reflected the barn lights wise beyond its months. Far away, racing back toward the colony, Vexmora felt the emotional exchange through the mental link. Her cubs loved the human. The human loved her cubs. More than that, her cubs had become something new, something her species had never produced before. Warriors who were also kind, hunters who were also gentle, strong beings who understood that strength didn't mean hardness. She had gone home for healing. Her wounds had closed. Her body was strong again. But something else had happened during her time with the healers. She had told them about the human, about what she was watching through the link. The healers had been horrified, outraged. Cubs raised with softness would never survive. But Vexmora had challenged them. Her cubs were healthy. They were learning. They were bonding. They were developing abilities adult Krithari didn't have. Cooperation, empathy, communication beyond basic needs. What if, she had asked, we've been doing it wrong? What if strength comes not from isolation but from connection? They had called her mad, corrupted by prey species thinking. But as Vexmora approached Talon 9, as she felt her cubs' joy and love and security through the link, she knew the truth. She had left them monsters in training. As all Crithari cubs were, she was returning to find children. Happy, healthy, loved children, and she would fight anyone who tried to take that away from them. Her ship entered the colony's orbit. Soon she would land. Soon she would see them again. And then the galaxy would learn what happened when a Crithari warrior learned about love. Vexmora's ship landed at dawn. The entire colony was on alert. A Crithari Warbeast was returning, and no one knew what would happen. Commander Deho had security teams stationed around the spaceport. Scientists gathered to observe. Reporters from 3 sectors had arrived to document the moment. But at Hyun's farm, everything was quiet. The cubs had sensed their mother's approach through the mental link they shared with her. They paced nervously, excited but uncertain. They remembered their mother, but so much had changed. It's okay, Hyun told them softly. She's your mom. She loves you. Hyun, stay? Ash asked, the cub's improved speech showing its anxiety. I'll stay as long as you need me. The ship's door opened. Vexmora emerged, and even from a distance Hyun could see she was fully healed. Her scales gleamed in the morning sun. Her movements were fluid and powerful. She was magnificent and terrifying. But when she saw her cubs, something in her posture changed. She lowered her massive head and made a soft chirping sound, the call a Crithari mother used for her young. The cubs ran to her. The reunion was everything and nothing like Hyun expected. Vexmora nuzzled each cub, checking them over with her nose and eyes. The cubs climbed over her, making happy sounds, pressing against her. But then Ash did something unexpected. The cub ran back to Hyun, grabbed his hand gently in its mouth, and pulled him toward Vexmora. Mama, meet Hyun, Ash said in its rough voice. Hyun good. Hyun love us. Vexmora went completely still. She stared at her cub, who had just spoken in another species' language. Then her golden eyes turned to Hyun. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Vexmora did something Hyun had never heard of a Crithari doing. She spoke out loud, not through telepathy. Her voice was deep and rumbling like distant thunder. You taught them to speak. They learned, Hyun said carefully. I just talked to them. Ash wanted to talk back. My cub speaks. Vexmora's voice held wonder. My cub says love, Ember pushed forward. Mama, see? We learned. The cub demonstrated sitting, staying, even rolling over. Storm showed off its gentleness, carefully picking up a small bird that had landed nearby and setting it down unharmed. Vexmora watched everything. Through the mental link, she had seen it all before. But seeing it in person was different. These were her cubs, her babies. But they were also something new. You did not train warriors, Vexmora said to Hyun. No. I raised children. Children, she repeated the word slowly. We have no word for this in my language. We have cubs. We have warriors. But children, this is different. Rika stepped forward, her datapad in hand. With your permission, I'd like to share what we've learned. Your cubs have developed abilities we've never seen in Crithari. Show me. Over the next hour, Rika presented her research. Social bonding, empathy responses, problem-solving through cooperation instead of dominance, language acquisition, self-regulation of aggressive instincts. Your species has this potential, Rika explained. It was always there. But it needs the right environment to develop. Safety, love, patience. Vexmora listened to everything. Then she looked at Hyun. You gave them what my people never gave me. What we never give our young. What's that? Choice. Every day they chose to trust. To learn, to be gentle. No one forced them. They could have been wild, aggressive, but they chose your way. She paused. I watched through Link. I see how you never hit, never starved, never made them fight each other for food. This is not our way. But I see now, maybe our way is wrong. A commotion at the farm entrance interrupted them. Several vehicles had arrived and people were getting out. Commander Deho was there, but so were others. Official-looking people with weapons and equipment. That's the specimen collection team, Deho said grimly. I held them off as long as I could, but they have authorization from the sector government. They're here to take the cubs to a research facility. No, Hyun said immediately. I'm sorry, Hyun, it's out of my hands. The leader of the collection team stepped forward. The Krathari cubs are being transferred to the Central Xenobiological Research Institute. They're too valuable and too dangerous to remain in private care. They're not specimens, Hyun argued. They're living beings with a family. They're alien predators that pose a threat to colony safety. Vexmora moved. One moment she was still. The next she was between the collection team and her cubs, all teeth and claws and fury. My cubs, she growled. Mine. The team backed away, weapons raised. The situation was seconds from turning violent. Wait! A new voice called out. A shuttle was landing nearby. When it opened, Vexkarn emerged, along with several other Krathari. Behind them came Nari, the mother who had reached out for help with her small cub. But that wasn't all. Dozens of other beings emerged from the shuttle, representatives from multiple species, scientists, government officials. We are here to witness, Vexkarn announced. What has been done on this farm is important. More important than any single group's authority. One of the officials, a human woman in diplomatic clothing, stepped forward. I'm Ambassador Gina from the Interspecies Council. We've been following Dr. Rika's research broadcasts. What's happening here has implications for every species in the known galaxy. These are just animals, the collection team leader protested. No, Gina said firmly. They're proof that behavior is not purely genetic. That environment shapes development. That species we've classified as inherently dangerous might simply lack the right nurturing. She looked at Vexmora. Do you consent to your cubs remaining here for continued study? Vexmora looked at Hyun, then at her cubs. Then she did something that shocked everyone. I stay too, she said. I learn from human. I see what my people need to see. That there is another way. You want to stay? Hyun asked in disbelief. My cubs are happy, healthy, they are more than I ever was. I want to understand how. I want to learn this in childhood. She looked at Nari. And others need to learn too. Nari stepped forward with her small cub. The young Krathari was smaller than Vexmora's cubs, with lighter scales and frightened eyes. Please, Nari said, her rough voice breaking. Teach me how to love my cub the way you love yours. The next few hours were chaotic. Agreements were made. Documents were signed. The farm would become an official research site, but Hyun would remain in charge of day-to-day care. Other species would be allowed to send troubled young for observation and learning. The collection team left, angry but overruled by higher authorities. As the sun set, Hyun sat on his porch steps. Ash was pressed against one side, Ember on the other. Storm lay at his feet. Vexmora sat nearby, massive and powerful, watching her cubs with new understanding. Taiyang ran up with Nari's cub, the two already becoming friends. Uncle Hyun, can we teach more cubs to play? There's so many who need to learn. We will, Hyun promised. One at a time, Rika joined them, smiling tiredly. You know what you've started, right? Species from across the galaxy are going to want to study your methods. They'll want to understand how love and patience can reshape entire biological imperatives. I just wanted to help some scared cubs, Hyun said. You did more than that. She looked at Vexmora. You showed a warrior species their strength and gentleness. That's revolutionary, Vexmora rumbled thoughtfully. My brother says I am changing our people's future. That cubs raised your way will become leaders. Warriors who understand cooperation, hunters who understand mercy. She looked at Hyun directly. You have taught my children. Now they will teach the galaxy. What makes family is not blood, not species. It is this human thing, this love. Ash nuzzled Hyun's hand. Love Hyun, Hyun family. You're my family too, Hyun whispered. All of you. More shuttles were landing now. Word had spread fast. A Krathari ambassador wanted to establish formal relations. A xenopsychologist wanted to study interspecies bonding. A documentary crew wanted to record everything. But for now, in this quiet moment, none of that mattered. Hyun had 3 cubs pressed against him, making content rumbling sounds. He had his nephew laughing as he played with a new friend. He had his sister documenting something that would change history. He had Vexmora, a warrior who had learned that protecting her young didn't mean teaching them to fight. It meant teaching them to love. Commander Daeho approached the porch. You know you're going to have every troubled parent in the galaxy showing up here, right? Good, Hyun said simply. Every child deserves to feel safe, to be loved, to have a childhood, even alien warbeasts, especially them. Because if we can show that even the fiercest predators can learn gentleness, can choose cooperation over dominance, can value connection over strength. Hyun smiled. Then maybe there's hope for everyone. Daeho shook his head, but he was smiling too. You're either crazy or a genius, can't I be both? As night fell, Hyun stayed on the porch with his unusual family. Stars appeared overhead, the same stars Vexmora had traveled through to get here. Desperate and wounded and afraid for her cubs. She had left them with a human in a desperate gamble. She had returned to find them transformed. And in transforming them, Hyun had transformed the beginning of understanding that would ripple across the galaxy. That love wasn't weakness. That gentleness was a form of strength. That the best way to create strong beings wasn't through hardship and competition, but through safety and connection.